So this is the virtual lecture for Chapter 25, Section 2, the feature investigation, about how adaptation to feeding may have promoted reproductive isolation in finches in the Galapagos Islands. Some background information about the professor who did this experiment. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Podos. He is a professor at UMass Amherst, and he studies evolutionary biology. He performed many more experiments on the Galapagos Islands besides this one, and his work focuses on vocal behavior and evolution in vertebrates, especially songbirds. So a preface to the experiment: in around 2001, so fairly recent, Podos hypothesized that the changes in beak morphology that were caused by an adaptation to the various food types on the island caused the songs of the finches to differ, causing reproductive isolation. So as we know, the Galapagos Islands, there was a species of finches that migrated to the Galapagos Islands. So a single species, through cladogenesis, therefore created this amplitude, so many species on the Galapagos Islands of finches. And what this man is hypothesizing is that this beak morphology that has changed because the various finches on the different islands changing their beak size, or through natural selection getting selected for the specific beak size necessary for the food that is found on that specific island, that causes the songs of the finches to differ, causing reproductive isolation between the different finches on each island. He knew that the songbirds mate with birds who can sing at the same pitch, meaning frequency, and the same trill rate. Now, the trill rate is a series of notes or groups of notes repeated in succession. So he says that in a specific frequency and a specific time interval, that specific song will attract a mate for that bird. He also knew that the vocal components in birds which make the song are the trachea, the larynx, and the beak. So the beak is part of it. The beak morphology is a part of the song. So we know that to begin with. That'll be our two controls. So as we start this experiment, we have the hypothesis, and we also, one of the key materials is that this Galapagos island of Santa Cruz, on the finch populations there, on the specific parts of each island. Okay, so he captured male finches, and he captured male finches because the male finches are the ones that sing the song to attract the females to come to them. So he captured the male finches and measured their beak depth. That is for the phenotypic variation in beak size, as we were talking about the beak morphology. Then he banded the birds so that he could tell that they were already measured, so he could identify that. And then he recorded the birds' songs on the tape recorder to then analyze it in regards to frequency range and trill rate. So trill rate here is shown in, let me get my pen out. Shown here through time. So then the data, as we look, we see that the data for the Galapagos finches go in this direction. So what does that mean? What does that mean that it has a positive slope going up? It means that as the beak depth gets larger, the relative vocal constraints get higher. So it basically means that the frequency at which these birds can now sing at becomes smaller and smaller. So in conclusion, he proves through this that the larger the beak size, which is the adaptation to cracking open large and hard seeds, constrains vocal performance. As you can see, the beak depth, as it gets greater, the relative vocal constraint in frequency becomes larger. You can't do it. So now when we look here, you can see it right here. So this bird has a fairly large beak size, and as you can see, its frequency range isn't that large, and its trill rate, the trill rate was just as another constant, but the trill rate itself, you see 2. Now we see a bird here with a smaller beak size, whose frequencies are larger and the trill rates are smaller. So in conclusion, he concluded that the larger the beak size, the more adapted strength is necessary to crack open the larger hard seeds, which was caused, that's how they got the larger beak size, because on those specific islands, they needed the adapted strength in the population. It was selected for the larger beak. But with a larger beak, you will not be able to perform the rapid movements associated with the other types of songs to attract females. So with that, it's shown that with the larger beaks that you can sing songs. Now, what about the smaller beaks? Now, the smaller beaks, which are adapted to probing and eating smaller seeds, have less of a constraint on their vocal performance. This large gap, which is caused between smaller beaks and larger beaks, then creates reproductive isolation because they aren't able to sing the correct songs for other birds to come and mate with them.